Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we are diving deep into the world of Go and one of its superstar web frameworks, Jin. We're going to follow a developer's journey, from that initial moment of choosing your tools to building an API from scratch, and finally getting it ready for the real world. All right, let's get into it. So here's our game plan. We've got 5 key stages mapped out. First, we'll tackle that big question, why Go and Jin in the first place? Then, we'll roll up our sleeves and actually build a simple API. From there, we'll make it stronger, more robust, with things like middleware and testing. After that, we'll look at what it really takes to go into production. And to wrap it all up, we'll ask that crucial question, is Jin the right tool for your next project? Okay, first things first. Why are we even having this conversation? Let's dive right into the great debate every Go developer faces when they stare at a blank new project folder. Before we even whisper the word Jin, let's just talk about Go. Why is everybody flocking to it? Well, it boils down to a few key things. It is incredibly fast and efficient. Its approach to concurrency is just chef's kiss, powerful and simple. And it was literally built for scalability. That makes it a perfect fit for the high-performance services we need today. So you've picked Go. Awesome. Now you're at a fork in the road. On one path, you've got Go's built-in standard library, the net/HTTP package. This route gives you absolute control and keeps things super lean with almost no dependencies. On the other path, a web framework like Jin. The big win here is speed of development. You get a ton of features right out of the box, which cuts down on repetitive code and feels really familiar if you're coming from another world like Python or Node.js. And when you look at the landscape of Go frameworks, Jin is an absolute giant. We're talking over 50,000 stars on GitHub. That's not just a number, it's a massive, vibrant community of developers essentially saying, yep, this is a solid choice. It's battle-tested and ready to go. All right, enough with the theory, let's get our hands dirty. We're gonna see just how fast we can go from a completely empty folder to a real, working REST API that you can actually call. You won't believe how easy this is. It's literally 3 commands in your terminal. You make a folder, you initialize it as a Go project so it can handle dependencies, and then you tell it to go get Jin. That's it. You're set. You're ready to write some code. So the very first bit of code you'll write is your data model. In Go, we use something called a struct for that. Here, we're modeling a company, but look closely at the right side of the slide. See those little JSON tags? That's the really cool part. They give you pinpoint control over what your API sends back. So even though our code says CEO in all caps, the JSON output will be CEO, all lowercase. It's so clean. Next up, the code that actually does the work. This is a handler function for creating a new company. And the magic is all in that one line, c.shouldBindJSON. This one function is a powerhouse. It grabs the incoming JSON from the request and just automatically maps it to our company struct. No manual parsing, no fuss. It's a huge time saver. And here's the aha moment. On the last slide, we saw the code. Here, we see the real-world API call. That JSON payload on the screen is exactly what that shouldBindJSON function is waiting for. This one-to-one mapping between the request and your code is what makes developing with Jin feel so intuitive and fast. So how do we tie all of this together? Well, Gin gives you a router. It's basically a map. You tell it, hey Gin, when you see a get request /companies, I want you to run the get companies handler function. As you can see here, it's super straightforward to lay out all your standard API operations, create, read, update, and delete, and build a complete logical API. Okay, having an API that works is a great start. High fives all around. But you are not putting that into production yet. No way. We need to make it robust. We've got to add layers for things like security, proper error handling, and of course, tests. And a huge concept here is middleware. Think of it like an assembly line for your API requests. Every single request goes through a series of checkpoints. Let's say you need to check if a user is logged in before they can access certain data. Instead of writing that check in 10 different places, you write it once, as a piece of middleware. It becomes a single gatekeeper that protects all your routes. It's an absolute game changer for writing clean, reusable code. And speaking of professional grade, you cannot skimp on error handling. It's just not optional. As this quote nails perfectly, this is what separates a great application from a frustrating one. Good error handling is what gives your users clear feedback and makes your life as a developer so much easier when you're trying to hunt down bugs.
And guess what? Middleware is the perfect tool for the job. You can create a single centralized error handling middleware that sits there and catches any error that happens anywhere in your application. It ensures every single error response that goes back to the user is consistent and predictable. This keeps your actual business logic clean and focused.
And of course, you have to test your work. Go has fantastic testing support baked right into the language. And when you pair it with a library like Testify, writing clear, easy-to-read tests for all your API endpoints becomes a breeze. You've got to do it.
Okay, our code is solid. Our API is robust. Our tests are all green. Now it's time to talk about the real world. Let's talk about what it takes to get this thing out there and ready for production traffic.
Going to production means a whole new checklist. That simple in-memory data we used? Nope, that's got to be a real database, like MongoDB. To keep things fast, you'll want a caching layer, like Redis, to serve up common requests instantly. Security is absolutely non-negotiable, so you'll need API keys or JWTs. For deployment and scaling, you're going to want to containerize your app with Docker. And finally, you need health checks, so orchestration tools like Kubernetes know if your app is alive and ready for traffic. Now, each one of those points could be its own deep dive. If you're serious about this stuff and want to learn more, there are fantastic resources out there, like this book, that are designed to walk you through exactly these kinds of advanced real-world challenges. Whew, we have covered a lot of ground. We went from the why to the how to the what's next. So let's bring it all home and circle back to that big central question. Should you use Gin for your next project? Look, the argument for Gin is pretty compelling. It really comes down to productivity. As this Reddit user points out, if you're coming from a background where frameworks are just the default way of building things, Gin is going to feel like coming home. The structure is familiar, the tools are there, and you will be moving fast right from day one. But there's a really strong counterargument. Many seasoned Go developers will tell you that the standard library has gotten so good that a framework just adds unnecessary complexity. For them, the elegance, the control, and the simplicity of having fewer dependencies is the ultimate goal, so they stick with the standard library for all their new projects. So in the end, it all comes down to this one question. It's a trade-off. What do you value more for your specific project? Is it the raw speed of development that a framework gives you, or is it the long-term simplicity and maintainability that comes with having almost no external dependencies? There is no right or wrong answer here, but it's the most important question you need to ask yourself.